we have called this meeting of essential 2, 3, or 4 persons from the civil society. Those we believe, we may be wrong, we may be right, have been patriotic and responsible enough that they will take national interest above parochial interests. So we have called this meeting to review as professionals, basically as educators, where we will look at what we are doing, what we have done, and what we need to do. As chief external examiners, we meet normally. It's only that this and no, it's not. It's an at least we meet twice, thrice in a year. On this is not something that we are just meeting, but it also has its lessons for us. What we are going to do is to allow 1 or 2 comments then, for whoever wishes to do so. Then we will, having told the press the purpose of this meeting, we can then thank them, excuse them, while we have our closed door meeting. As I've said, it's not a press conference. It's a meeting of chief external examiners from across the country, and few, very few. We have, I think we invited 4. Former Minister Ochita, Senator Shehu Sani, Azu, the leadership MD, and Educare. So we have invited this. It's not a meeting of grandstanding. It's a meeting of making contribution, as we have always done, to national development. Can we have a moment of prayers in our individual ways? Unexpectedly, just being natural, but that being human. And it does not mean that we have abdicated our responsibility to serve this nation. It is some people are taking advantage of that, thinking that we are at our weak points, making all sorts of claims. People that ordinarily, your standard compared with theirs. People cannot run a successful establishment anywhere who had grounded national institutions. They will now sit down and be pontificating. But it's not their business, because if it had not happened, you wouldn't have people grandstanding on what they least know about. So I want to say this clearly, particularly because I accepted responsibility, not because I do not know how to do blame game. People that work with me can testify to the fact that I do not care where you come from. Until this incident happened, I didn't know that I was surrounded by many Igbos, because I didn't look at them as Igbos. I look at them as my friend. But when things started happening and people are saying, this one is Igbo, which was unfortunate, because we need not look at where people come from. People that are mentioning, I asked one yesterday and he was embarrassed, that, are you not a Lagos person? He said, no, I'm not Lagos, so I'm an Igbo from Delta. So, but I never knew, because I knew him as a human being who was performing his role. So please, let us not descend to the level of those people who are parochial. I say it for the often time that there with no conspiracy theory is relevant in this case. There is nothing, I say North, South, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. Something happened, but people have been doing something well for years, and something just went wrong. I would not throw them under the bus. No. No. And I say it clearly that those who want to take advantage of that, they are just deceiving themselves. For instance, I'll just give you 3 examples. On the day that that thing happened, the day of the press conference, I was under intense pressure. The unfortunate case of a lady who was said to have committed suicide was painful for any parent, any normal parent, that, oh, somebody had committed a suicide. Then, unknown to many of you, I have, at that time when I was addressing the press conference, I thought many people had committed suicide. One is bad enough, but the text message I received, in fact, one of them who said, my daughter committed suicide this morning because of this, had to call me in the night that I was looking for money. That no, to treat the thing. I was under intense, giving the false impression that so many things are happening to these innocent children. One is bad enough. One is bad enough. And it's very sad. I will urge each and every one of us to have a moment of silence in honor of the memory of the lady who are departed on the basis of this. You see, people want to take undue advantage. Some who are competitors with our service providers who have been here, they now want to take the opportunity to deride our service providers who have been, some even said, somebody who had never been to JAMB, to look at quality assurance mechanism that we have here. I can say it anywhere, that there is no center of examination anywhere in this continent that has the type of facilities we have here. I'm not talking just as a Nigerian. Many of you who know me know that I've played active role in education in this continent and outside this continent. I've been president of AAU. I've been on the board of almost all essential committees in the world that had to do with education assessment. How will somebody now, and if you are talking of even CBT, I started it at the University of Ilorin as vice chancellor. Even JAMB at that time had to come to understudy what we were doing. We are not strange to these things, but unfortunately, when things happen, some people want to take undue advantage. We will not allow it. Yes, we felt pained that what happened, but that does not mean that we do not know what we are doing. When this type of thing happens, there will be so many people, advisors. I've chosen to own up. I've chosen to take the responsibility because that's the right thing to do. It does not matter whether those who did it or this, whether they are Igbo or no Igbo. I don't want that type of trend at all, because nobody did it because of where he came from. They did what they did because it has to. I've seen some other trends saying, oh, it's an Igbo agenda. I didn't know them as Igbos. I know them as workers. And that remains forever. Because I don't want anybody to use this type of sad situation, to now create lack of harmony among the workforce who have been working without, you see many of them, since a week ago, they had not even left the office, working day and night. Then the nation must be appreciative of their contributions. I think generally, this is what I want to say, and to say that, look, as Nigerians, let us face the reality and stop pursuing the shadow. The shadow is what many of us are pursuing. Somebody comes from somewhere. Somebody practices one religion. If we do not face the problem squarely, we are likely to be consumed all by it. And this is not something that we should. Examination malpractice, for instance, is taking a new dimension. A new dimension with AI. That anybody, and it has federal character. It's not limited to this is the group that is doing it. We are deceiving ourselves. It has federal character across the country. What do our experience has shown? Let us all face this menace and tackle it rather than trading blames and spending our time on things that are more diversionary than what we should focus on. So I want to thank you and welcome one or two comments. Let me introduce the chairman. I don't know where you come from. I don't know where you come from. Professor Telebe, we have been together. I the HT rescheduling, the interest of the students at heart, and maybe out of lack of knowledge. Anybody who is aware of how education is arranged will know that once JAMB conducts its UTME late April, from May, WASC starts. And it goes on till, that's SSE for WAEC. And immediately, NECO starts till July. Immediately, NAPTEP follows. This same set of students are the ones taking all these examinations. So once you miss your time, it will be difficult. Someone is saying, why don't you do it in July, August? I think they will have known that there is problem. Maybe they are oblivious of what happens. If you do that, what of NDA? What of Police Academy? What of Air Force Center that are regimented? And they will continue with the admission. So, and you deprive these people of admission because they do not have UTME. So we are conscious of our responsibility to this nation. When this happened, my first reaction is to resign and just say, but I thought people advised me that, look, the students will never forgive you because you will have abandoned at a time and everybody will say, oh, I will have been this. Even somebody that is not built to be anything would think I have contributed to his not being what he is. So I took up the responsibility. It was not easy at all to be able to brave such things and say, look, I will sit there and make sure. We were doing that because at that time, the only space that we had was the space that WAEC had agric science practical on Friday. And we felt that we can move in and then be able to get, we can't get that type of space until 2 months, and you will have permanently deprived these students of their chance in life. So we knew that if we continue to mourn and groan over what had happened and we allow that space to escape, we may not. And I thank the students, just as people said, because you have about 95% attendance of all the, of course, it's a very reasonable attendance. And we had also taken decision immediately that all those who miss that examination for whatever reason, the 5-point-something% that, or 6% that miss the examination, we will, during Mop-Up, you know, we normally do annual Mop-Up throughout the country for those for one reason or the other. So we will package them with the Mop-Up. And it is for that reason we have also decided that even those who missed the earlier initial exam, who are absent, we will extend this opportunity to them to also receive. So that it is not that we are doing something that is not. In the university, you have make-up examination when students are sick and they have one reason or the other. It's only we don't allow the abuse of it. So we will allow all the candidates who had one reason or the other not to be present in this and the previous main exam. We will allow that, and that will be done. Secondly, I must thank WAEC sincerely Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, NECO, ABU, and others who rallied around to make it possible. You know, like I said, WAEC had agric science. We quickly had to move in, see how we can reschedule in a way that's what minimized the issue of clash, because we had to work together immediately throughout the night. The HNO of WAEC was with me, and that is very, very important. The same thing with Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. You know, they had their professional exam in the East. It was postponed. ABU had the distance learning examination. All of them, as you call on them, they were even there before me to say, look, we are ready. There was Beche for NECO. During that weekend, all these were put off. Why we are doing that, those who don't know what it entails, they keep on pontificating. Why will you know? Why hasty reschedule? They are using all types of language that they are not, they don't even know the meaning of some of the languages they are using. We immediately also established counseling and emergency call center, where we were attending to the candidates or their problems, and we are solving them, what do you have, and so on, granting them counseling services throughout the period. I want to thank all of you who are, particularly the Honorable Minister for Education, because it was his idea. He was the one who called me on that morning that counseling is very important, because we were at that point even confused. We were relying only on our ticketing. And he said, oh, ticketing is not enough. And fortunately, just 2 years ago, we procured the equipment for tests to voice to test, that we have the first. Those of you who are here last week, you'll see the type of very, very dynamic system we have, our service center. We just acquired that, not even knowing that this type of thing will happen. So we thank all these agencies, not to talk of people from all over the world, calling us, advising us, asking us, oh, why do you open your system to people can take undue advantage? At that time, our colleagues from all over the world did not know our peculiarities. They felt I was too open. They felt I was disclosing so many things, that there are certain things we need to educate our people. Look at this book, Manual of Critical Assessment Competencies for Tertiary Education Lectures in Nigeria. If you go to our website, you'll find it there. We paid all the authors, led by Professor Nwogu. Professor Nwogu, Boniface Nwogu, is the best psychometric. There is no dispute about it in Africa today. He's presently, I think, a commissioner in Imo State. He's our chief consultant for psychometrics here. We wrote this. Why did we write this book? And paid off all the authors. Because there is ignorance about what we do in education. People who are supposed to not to even be serving tea where education is being discussed. You see them on television pontificating about things they know little about. They know little about, spreading ignorance. Many do not know the difference between achievement test and selection test, placement test. They will just be talking about things at times. Some will even be saying, oh, it's such in America, this one. They don't know the difference. They don't know. They will model the whole thing of. Some will even say, extend the. Have you ever heard of any placement test that is being extended anywhere in the world? But there are achievement tests that can be curtailed. That's the type of search where you have syllabus, you have everything like that. We decided to publish this as part of education. When people were talking about the highest scorer, the lowest scorer, and so on, we decided to sponsor this book and place it, paid all the authors off, and place it on our website that anybody could go there, download, study, know what we are doing, know the type of test method, the type of reporting. Look at Nigeria. Last year, people were talking about poor performance, and I I didn't know what to say, because that was not the poor. In fact, it was the best in recent years. But because we changed the manner of reporting, you know, we do this type that we did this year, 20 to 200 to, this was the mundane one. But the one we have been doing before was the one that will not be glaring, because that is not the purpose. The purpose of our examination is placement. It is not an achievement test. It is a quiz given to qualified candidates. It's not UTME that qualified students into university education. If a student does not score even 100 over 400, and is not able to get a place, and therefore deprived of education, the boy is not a failure, it's the parents who are the failure. Because if they had money, whether stolen or anything, they can send him to Ghana there. And he will, because he needed just 5 credits. We are signatory to Arusha Convention, which our leaders call Addis Ababa Convention now, that stipulate what is the entry qualification across the world. And it is 5 SSE. Those who conduct anything outside it still make 5 SSE the basic qualification. And I give people example. You have 10 children, and you want to travel to Lagos, and your car can only take 4. And you tell your children, I don't want to use age. I don't want to use state to determine you. I don't want to use who is your mother. I will give you a test. Anybody who passed that test, the first to pass the test will go with me. They say, who is the president of so-so country? Write it down, the first to write it down. The first to write it down, then happen. One may score 9, one may score 3, one may score 2, because it's a placement one. What is important in a placement examination is the ranking, not the score. Number 1 should not be number 2 and vice versa. It's the ranking that is important. So, but in Nigeria now, because people always, and they talk of highest scorer, the person who had the highest scorer, we had an example in Ilorin. About 3-4 years ago, Ilorin were not taking anybody for medicine who scored less than 250 in UTME. And this boy, I think, a boy, yes, a girl. This girl scored 240. So Unilorin said, no, you are off. You are out of the consideration. And the girls changed to physiology in order to be able to do their post-UTME. At the end of the post-UTME, and you know they will add school SAT, post-UTME with UTME. You know our UTME is just 50%. The others that they will add, this lady topped the class. That is the total accumulation. Then she became the first, even in medicine. So they say you cannot read, and the girl protested to us that, look, in the exam conducted by JAMB, I wasn't the best. But when you now have the accumulation, I'm the best. There is nobody in medicine that is more qualified than me. And we called the university. So look. This girl has called our attention to a lacuna in our system. Cumulatively, she's the best. She was the best. And therefore, she should be taken. That was what changed the parameter of cutting people off, because somebody can score 200. By the time you had the school SAT and the post-UTME, it might be on top. So when people start celebrating somebody that is the highest scorer for UTME, we don't indulge in that. When people say, send this to us, send this, that, except those who want to give scholarship, that you don't want to deprive candidates. We would consult with the candidates. If they are willing, we send their names. So I've said this to just say that, please, particularly gentlemen of the press, educate the people and let those who know little about education. Education is a profession. Let them stop talking about things they know little about, because it's very offensive that somebody that ought not to be a primary school teacher pontificating and grandstanding and telling somebody who had undergone the system what to do. It's just like a truck puller, or what do they call those, truck pusher, directing a pilot on how to fly. I don't know. But unfortunately, that's where we find ourselves. I want to thank you once again and say that we will continue with the meeting, and later we will call at the appropriate time. We will make the decision known.